Students at Allan Handcox College were able to show off their pieces of art today during the college's Fine Arts Student Art Show opening reception. About 100 students had their art on display at the Anne Foxworthy Gallery in the college's Santa Maria campus. Instructors chose a few art student projects from several different art classes to put on display. Art on display included paintings, sculptures, ceramics, digital art, and dance.
I'm always inspired by what our students do, the work that they put in to their pieces. I think it's inspirational not just for students, but for faculty as well to see what our students are capable of.
This was the first in-person art show at Handcox since 2020. The students' art will be on display through May 12th. Enrollment into California's K-12 public school system fell by 110,000 students in the past year. It is the first time since the turn of the millennium that fewer than 6 million students have been enrolled. Enrollment has now declined for the fifth straight year. Experts say the decline is due to falling birth rates, along with migration to other states. And it is also possible that more families may be homeschooling their kids. And Dave's back with a look at the forecast. It should be ending tonight, or are we still more rain on the way?
Still more rain, although the intensity and coverage is going to wane by the hour through the day tomorrow. So once we get to the weekend, things are good. And tomorrow's kind of more of an on and off kind of day. Just a spring shower. No huge advisories or flooding or anything to talk about.
We'll take it.
Just badly needed rain. Pismo Beach earlier today, 8:05 webcams. I guess it wasn't a great beach day.
Probably not.
Okay, all right.
There have been better.
They're right, true. My forecast, minutes away.
Plus, President Biden announces a new program for refugees seeking asylum in the United States, and the deadline is approaching for Central Coast Police Departments to approve the use and purchase of military equipment. We have new information on a stabbing that happened right in the heart of downtown San Luis Obispo earlier this evening. KSBY reporter Allan Handcox has details.
The San Luis Obispo Police Department says that the stabbing suspect has been arrested and will be booked into the San Luis Obispo County Jail. Now, police are also looking into whether the victim could also face charges. Bystanders rushing to help a stabbing victim who collapsed along Monterey Street in downtown San Luis Obispo Thursday evening. First responders arriving on scene and giving medical aid to the man who was stabbed. The unidentified victim was carried away on a stretcher. Police say he was taken to the hospital for treatment and is expected to survive. Officers then followed a blood trail to Mission Plaza, which led them to the suspect, identified as 61-year-old Samuel Green. Police say that the knife used in the stabbing was found on the suspect. Authorities say that the victim started a physical fight with Green, which then escalated into a stabbing. Now, the suspect faces charges of assault with a deadly weapon. At this point, it's unclear what charges the victim could face. Reporting in downtown San Luis Obispo, Allan Handcox, KSBY News.
President Joe Biden has announced a new program that will allow Ukrainian refugees to come directly to the United States from Europe. These refugees would come through an expedited process with the help of an American sponsor. The program will streamline refugee application for Ukrainians and others fleeing the war, but will no longer routinely grant entry to those seeking asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border, as thousands have done since the invasion began almost 2 months ago. The U.S. says it expects to admit up to 100,000 refugees from Ukraine through the program. And President Biden also announced today that the U.S. will give another $1.3 billion in military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. The president says the latest aid will include $800 million in heavy artillery, weapons, and ammunition, along with more tactical drones, and another $500 million in humanitarian and economic assistance, and added that the U.S. would ban Russian-affiliated ships from U.S. ports. Police locked down the campus of UC Berkeley for a potential threat. The campus-wide shelter in place has been lifted after police found the person who they say was posing a threat. Police did not call it an active shooter situation and say the incident has been resolved. Classes were canceled for the day and buildings were closed. Those off campus were told to stay away from the area. Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill 481 back in September of 2021. Now police departments across the state are on deadline to get approval for the use and purchase of military equipment. This past Tuesday, the San Luis Obispo City Council approved the use of military equipment that the department is already using. But some community members expressed concern over the approval, stating more resources should be allocated to nonprofits and housing. Some people commented the need for this equipment is unnecessary and excessive. Police say any future purchases of new equipment or additional equipment would need city council approval, and the bill of a transparency.
We have an open door policy. If they, the best thing is communication with us. We're going to talk to you about anything. And also you have the opportunity, if you see a piece of equipment being used inappropriately, to file a complaint, and we have a complaint process that will report to council also.
Police also must show how the equipment is used along with a description. The equipment list is posted on the department's website for public view. After this initial approval, San Luis Obispo Police Department will have to provide an annual report to the City Council on the use of this equipment and any additional purchases of equipment. The report will go out to community members 30 days prior to the City Council meeting for public comment. Cal Poly Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship hosted tech companies tonight in a pitch competition. 6 different tech driver startups competed in AngelCon 2022. The event provides the startups an opportunity to win up to $100,000 in funding. The event also acts as opportunity for local investors to learn how to invest in startup companies. Investors were trained since September in how to invest in early stage startups.
Not only do we train local investors to become interested in investing in a more long-term fashion in startups locally, it's a way for us to create access to capital for our startups. And then the third reason really is it's a great opportunity to do a great showcase event so that the entire business community can see all the tech and innovation coming out of our region.
40 total startups applied for the program.